Emily Vanderwerf, The AV Club, December 11th, 2009. There have been few episodes where the show managed to hit this note, community, as often or as well as it did tonight. This series works best when it has a healthy level of snarky humor, but also a big, kinda stupid heart. This is the story of Community. I'm Alex Wong. March 3rd, 2010. Welcome to PaleyFest. Every year since 1984, the Paley Center for Media in Los Angeles has hosted an annual celebration of television, where fans can see the cast and crews behind some of their favorite shows with their own two eyes. This year, we've got a diverse slice of the cultural zeitgeist. There's esteemed dramas like Lost and NCIS, one of the most influential sitcoms of the last decade in Curb Your Enthusiasm, and a breadth of other programs from all across the TV guide. This year, rounding out the lineup are some comedy up-and-comers that have found an audience fairly quickly. Cougar Town, Glee, Modern Family, and Community. Today is the day of the Community panel, and the stage will be packed. Drawing the headlines are the 5 present cast members: Joel McHale, who plays Jeff, Gillian Jacobs, Britta, Donald Glover, Troy, Ken Jeong, Senior Chang, and Chevy Chase, who plays Pierce. Intermixed with them are 6 producers, including series creator Dan Harmon. As they make their way onto the Saban Theater stage, it's fair to say that the modest crowd in attendance has some lofty expectations. And rightfully so. To start, they absolutely love the show. In November of 2009, Community was nominated for Best New Comedy at the People's Choice Awards, an honor that's determined by the TV-watching masses instead of an elite academy. And the devotion hasn't waned. A quick scroll through the Twitter reaction to the fall finale would reveal dozens of tweets calling it the funniest show on TV, not to mention superb critical reviews like Vanderwerf's. The constant laughs and big ol' heart have charmed the fans, and they're eager to see their beloved study group up close. Now, there's no shortage of shows with enthusiastic fan bases. After all, the phrase cult classic exists for a reason. But this panel should be extra ebullient because, in contrast to the Hollywood stereotype of backstabbing, infighting, and inane pettiness, the Community cast seems to genuinely get along. Despite interminable days and exhausting shoots, when speaking of each other, the gang is all complimentary, like when they talk to a reporter from the Boston Globe in mid-January. The anecdotes told in the resultant article are, quite frankly, adorable. Take Danny Pudi, who plays Abed helping Donald Glover move into his new apartment, or the cast watching an episode with Pudi's mom when she came to town. Even the notoriously difficult Chevy Chase hosted a barbecue for everyone when he moved to Los Angeles. Dan Harmon attributed the camaraderie in part to the cast diversity. Laughing to the reporter Meredith Goldstein, he said, quote, "It's not, this is the sexy young white person show. Then they'd have to worry about who was the sexiest and whitest," end quote. But whatever it is, as the first season comes to a close, the cast is clicking. And surely any fan who made their way out to PaleyFest is expecting a riot. And a riot is what they get. The cast's undeniable chemistry is on display right from the jump, as they crack jokes and tell stories in the way that only a tight-knit bunch can. Playful teasing abounds, with Chevy Chase unsurprisingly being a frequent distributor and recipient. One instance from Joel McHale: "Chevy is like Nolan Ryan in that he's still alive." What is also becoming apparent is that this free-flowing, vivacious energy often seeps its way into the on-screen product and is part of what makes it so damn funny. While extolling the cast's improv chops, Harmon notes, quote, "Halfway through the season, I became acquainted with the fact that the best thing I could do for my show was write lukewarm crap and send it down to the set," end quote. The antithesis of the cold, cruel showbiz world, the Community experience at PaleyFest is one of glee and ceaseless laughter, and for the fans in attendance and those watching online, it only builds the legend of the series as one of the best half hours on television. Just 2 days after the panel, the streak of optimism continues, this time in the form of some fantastic news. NBC has renewed Community for a full second season. It's not extraordinarily shocking. The show did reasonably well in the 8 o'clock time slot, and there aren't many comedies on the network gunning for its spot. But it's another affirmation that Dan Harmon and company have built something worthwhile. They'll get a chance to build on a critically acclaimed first season and hopefully bring some more warmth and hilarity to an already dedicated following. The future is bright for the freshman sitcom, but as Harmon goes to tell the cast the news, he can't help but be a little facetious. He stammers, "Look, I'm not good at, bad news, but all of you have to work with Chevy again for another season." May 19th, 2010. The Season 1 finale is tomorrow, and by most measures, Community has had a phenomenal 25 episodes. Enthusiastic fans? Check. Outstanding reviews? Check. Limited behind-the-scenes drama? Check. As the focus shifts to the sophomore campaign, however, there is one area that has left something to be desired. Viewership numbers. The first season had 5 million viewers per episode. In a vacuum, that sounds great. 5 million is 5 million. But let's take a look at Community's 8 o'clock Thursday competition. On ABC, the science fiction drama Flash Forward scored 7.3 million viewers. On Fox, the procedural Bones averaged just over 10 million. And on CBS, the hit reality competition show Survivor was seen by over 12 million people per week. Ultimately, Community would end up 97th out of 140 broadcast primetime shows for the season in average viewership, which is not ideal and could spell legitimate trouble for the show in the future. But hang on a second. We're counting viewership in the millions here, and if I recall correctly, there isn't some authority that goes door to door every day asking what you watched on TV last night. So who publishes these numbers? How do they formulate them? And why do we care so much? Predictably, the story starts with money. The tale of advertising is one of the oldest in the book. You want to sell your product, you have to tell people about it. But since we have limited time here, a proper origin point for this story would probably be around the 17th century with the development of print advertising. For sellers and newspaper owners, this is a win-win situation. The former have a convenient way to spread their brand name and product, while the latter can generate revenue while only having to sacrifice a small part of the reader's experience by placing an ad amongst the stories. Fast forward a few hundred years, and there's a new name in the media game: television. With a wealth of information in every frame, the medium represents the next big stage for advertisers, and in 1941, a new era begins with a $9 commercial for the Bulova watch company. Then, over the next decade, as the Second World War comes to a close and TV sets infiltrate every corner of the United States, ad spending booms, reaching a total of $128 million just 10 years later. Of course, individual ad prices are now soaring, and for advertising agencies, it becomes vitally important to determine the prudence of their spending and the efficacy of their spots. In other words, they need to know what people are watching and when they're watching it. And lucky for them, a giant name in this type of market research is moving into television: Nielsen. Arthur C. Nielsen founded his eponymous company in 1923 to test conveyor belts and turbine generators, but its success begot expansion. By 1950, television audiences had come under the company's reach, and data was coming fast. So with these so-called Nielsen ratings, advertisers have a way to measure viewership, highlighting one of television's most fundamental principles. When a show draws more eyeballs, it appears more attractive to advertisers, its commercials make more money for the network, and it's far more likely to be renewed. In other words, better Nielsen ratings translate to more time on the air, and it's more or less been that way since. Of course, in 2010, the ratings are a bit more complicated and specific than they were a half-century ago. Now, Nielsen does 4 major types of data collection all over an ostensibly representative sample of the US population. The most infamous of the 4 would undoubtedly be the paper diaries, which are sent out during the so-called sweeps months and result in special episodes, stunt casting, and the like. But week to week, television junkies follow the national ratings, which sample from 9,000 households and use manual input from each household member to collect demographic data, like age and gender. Once the data has been received and tabulated, the numbers are published, and executives from networks and shows around the country hold their breath. There are 2 core percentages from which all other statistics can be calculated: rating and share, usually written as rating/share. The rating is the percentage of households watching a given program out of all households with a TV, while the share is the percentage of households watching it out of all households that were watching TV at the time. For instance, the highest-rated program of all time, the MASH finale, had an astonishing 60.2 rating and 77 share, meaning that 60.2% of TV-owning households watched the finale and 77% of TV-watching households were tuned to it. So if you were watching TV at the time, there was a more than 3/4 chance you were watching MASH. Then, from rating and share, other numbers can be deduced, like total viewership and ranking in the night's or season's programming. Taking a step back, though, it's critical to remember why we calculate all these numbers in the first place. Advertising. The goal is to determine which programs are the best spaces to put commercials. So naturally, not all viewers and not all ratings are made equal. Say you're a car dealership looking for a place to show off the latest inventory. You're not selling to 70-year-olds who probably won't be buying a new car anytime soon, or 10-year-olds who can't even get behind the wheel. The meaningful ratings to you are somewhere in the middle. If you think about it, the same logic can also be applied to much of the economy. Hence, one of the most publicized ratings is for adults ages 18 to 49. You also want viewers to see your ad, and you want them to see it now. A viewer is worthless if they flip away during the commercials or watch it weeks later on their DVR. This is why most ads are sold based on C3 numbers, which measure the number of commercial watchers either live or on DVR within the ensuing 3 days. There's just one minor problem. C3 ratings aren't made public. So instead, websites publish a passable substitute, live plus same-day ratings, which measure viewing live or on DVR through 3 a.m. Let's return to Community. For Season 1, its live plus same-day adults 18 to 49 rating was 2.1, meaning that, according to Nielsen, 2.1% of adults from the ages of 18 to 49 in a TV-owning household watched Community live or on DVR the night it aired. That placed it 70th out of 140 primetime shows, far behind the leading comedies of the season, including The Office, which earned a 4.0 in the same category. And that seems weird, right? I mean, Community has this passionate fan base, and yet, ratings-wise, it's struggling to climb out of mediocrity. But there are a few reasons for this, and the first one is a pertinent yet unfortunate fact. Ratings don't care about intensity. In advertising, volume is king, so a diehard fan who makes Community appointment viewing and live tweets every episode is worth the same as someone who dozed off watching NBC at 7:45. In fact, the sleeper might even be measured as more valuable because it's literally impossible for them to skip through commercials. Then there's the issue of online video services. Take Hulu, the streaming home of Community. It isn't counted by Nielsen ratings, but in just 3 short years, Hulu has grown to over 30 million users. So even if ratings were low, surely if the network saw Community do well online, it would rethink the show's value. Not so much. The fact is, here in 2010, compared to broadcast television advertising, online video just doesn't matter. According to Dan Rayburn, a principal analyst with the consulting firm Frost & Sullivan, the broadcast ad market last year was $60 billion. Online video? $500 million. But perhaps a more significant roadblock to streaming's relevance is big corporations' notorious resistance to change. Advertisers, network executives, and showrunners have all grown up with Nielsen ratings, and they're not about to go back to the drawing board just because 1% of the market is shifting. To be fair, streaming is already affecting ratings, and there's no question that change is coming. One day, brands like Netflix and Hulu may run television. But we're years away from that, and it's not going to do anything for Community in the meantime. It's the day of the CBS Upfronts, another event built for, guess who, advertisers. Between CBS and the other networks, billions of dollars of ads will be sold as preliminary schedules see the light of day, and as usual, the event does not disappoint. In the game of chess that is network programming, America's most watched network brings out its queen, shifting around popular shows and introducing brand new comedies in heavily coveted time slots. It sends a ripple across the TV landscape, but for NBC's Community, it turns into just about a worst-case scenario. Joining it next fall on Thursdays at 8 will be The Big Bang Theory, the highest-rated sitcom on television. This is bad news. Sure, dedicated fans of Community will DVR the show or watch it live, but they're not the issue here. The show desperately wants to court new viewers, but who's going to take the time to become invested in the quirky, unpredictable craziness happening at Greendale when that show they've been hearing all about is a few channels over, scoring a 5.3 18-49 rating? With this move, a Season 2 ratings drop is pretty much inevitable. To make matters worse, there's undoubtedly some audience overlap. There aren't many sitcoms about lovable, college-frequenting losers. Are casual viewers going to make the effort to DVR Community, then watch it soon after? That remains to be seen. But regardless, this move by CBS has put everyone on high alert. But amidst all of the Madison Avenue hoopla, it can be easy to forget that the first season of Community produced innovative, compelling television that made a wholehearted connection with millions of people. Every once in a while, it's nice to have a reminder of that. July 24th, 2010. Gillian Jacobs is misty-eyed, but it's not because of poor ratings or backstage drama. No, these are happy tears, because she and her friends have just been welcomed to the Comic-Con stage with a standing ovation. Over the last 40 years, San Diego Comic-Con has blossomed from a mere 300-person comic book convention to an annual hub of pop culture with over 130,000 attendees. The 4-day potpourri of the best in comics, TV, film, and more has become so popular that the flood of registrants often crash the sign-up system en route to selling out the convention months in advance. The eccentric community fits like a glove in the worldwide hub of nerddom, and it's being treated as such, with one of the largest, rowdiest crowds of all of Comic-Con filling the Indigo Ballroom. Just like PaleyFest, it's a packed stage featuring the entire cast minus Ken Jeong plus 6 producers. And just like PaleyFest, that mixture results in a raucous conversation, filled with hilarious and sincere moments. I mean, where else could you learn that Allison reads fanfiction, or that Dan's favorite movie is Die Hard, or that Chevy still likes his castmates? But nothing gets the crowd going like Donald Glover and Danny Pudi's impromptu performance of the Spanish 101 rap. As soon as the words "Donde está la biblioteca" leave Glover's mouth, the house goes nuts as they witness one of their favorite television moments acted out right in front of them. For the stars and fans alike, the Mutual Love Fest is a dream come true, and the memories gleaned from Comic-Con 2010 will last a lifetime. For the masses in attendance, they'll take the hilarity and undying appreciation of the actors, actresses, and producers they adore so much, not to mention a Greendale Community College ID. For the cast? Well, Yvette Nicole Brown, who plays Shirley, says it best. "We all felt like Sally Field at the Oscars. They like us. They really like us." September 23rd, 2010. Today, Community stands at the starting line of the race that is a season of broadcast television. To its left, Fox's Bones, which pulled a solid 2.9 rating last year and placed 32nd in total viewership. To its right, CBS's The Big Bang Theory, waiting with its 5.3 like a 16-year-old Usain Bolt, ready to propel itself into the stratosphere. At the risk of belaboring this metaphor, the 8 o'clock Thursday race is loaded, and though one of these runners is not like the others, ratings-wise at least, the battle is still going to be fierce from September through May. Of course, the producers of these shows, competitive as they may be, are part of the fraternity of entertainers at heart. That's why, a few days ago, this friendly time-slot rivalry spilled onto the emerging stage of short-form comedy, Twitter. Along with the Vampire Diaries' Julie Plec, another 8 o'clocker, Bones' Hart Hansen, The Big Bang Theory's Bill Prady, and Community's Dan Harmon shot the breeze in a faux battle that touched on bobbing and weaving, OTPs, or one-true pairings for the uninitiated, and Harmon's mother's plans for Thursday evenings. She was deciding whether to DVR The Big Bang Theory or her own son's show, by the way. Bones got the honor of airing live. It's a reminder that, at the end of the day, this is television, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. But it's also a reminder of one of Community's foremost assets in the fight for relevance. While other shows may have mass appeal or awards to hang their hat on, the Greendale gang has developed a fervent social media following, and 1 hour before the season premiere, they're leaning into it, publishing an 80-tweet-long, in-character Twitter-sode. Starring the main characters who have had Twitter accounts since the pilot, plus the Dean, Starburns, Annie's Boobs, the monkey, and Troy's Best of Pierce account named Old White Man Says, it serves as a prequel to the first episode. And as expected, it's bite-sized wit, with Jeff trying to weasel out of classes, Shirley worried about Britta after watching Girl Interrupted, and Pierce tweeting, "Why would anyone take cosmetology? I can teach them how to be a prostitute for free," then being immediately retweeted by Old White Man Says. The unique format proves perfect for the show's brand of humor, and while it may not drive up ratings, it acts as a delightful lead-in for the lead-in-less community, and a proper reintroduction to the universe the characters call home. Alright, 8 o'clock is here, so let's jump back into the metaphor. The competitors line up at the starting blocks, eagerly awaiting the clicking of remotes, hoping the country tunes into the show they've spent hours upon hours fine-tuning to perfection. Regardless of what happens, it will be fascinating, as another year of broadcast television gets underway. On your marks, get set, go. November 19th, 2010. Well, 2 months into the new season, it's fair to say Community's not playing it safe. Ambition oozes from every new episode, somehow endearing the show to its fans even more. It's indisputably one of the most innovative half-hours not only in comedy, but in all of television. But, as expected, it's getting thoroughly demolished in the ratings. And, as expected, it's at the hands of its new competition, The Big Bang Theory. The Chuck Lorre-Bill Prady comedy is running away with the time slot. Last week, it pulled a dominant 13 share in the vital 18 to 49 demographic, dwarfing Bones' 8 and Community's 6. Once again, this isn't a shock to anyone, but for a show that could benefit heavily from a ratings boost, no help is on the way. Or rather, the opposite of help is on the way. Since the television gods felt that competing with the #1 comedy wasn't enough, starting in January, Community will also have to compete with the #1 show on all of prime time. It's hard to encapsulate how massive of a phenomenon Fox's American Idol is, but here's a doozy. In the ratings, the singing competition has been trading the #1 and #2 spot back and forth for 5 years with itself. American Idol is actually 2 different shows on 2 different nights, the performances, which air on Tuesday, and the results, which air on Wednesday. For the last half-decade, they've been 1 and 2 in the season's ranking, passing the top spot back and forth as if they were bored with the rest of the competition. Here's some more absurdity. During those 5 years, the performance and results shows have each lost 8 million viewers and still sit 2 million viewers clear of the next largest primetime program. It's so enormous that American Idol is known to some TV executives as the Death Star. And from the start of the new year till season's end, the results show we'll head over to Thursdays at 8. Television critic Alan Sepinwall writes a piece on Fox's shakeup, and in the comments, a few schools of thought emerge. On the one hand, this may not be that big of a deal, not as much as the Big Bang move. Community is a comedy, Idol is a reality show, and Community's fanatics are not going to suddenly switch live allegiances. In fact, there's a chance it could be good for the struggling sitcom. NBC could realize nothing it puts at 8 is going to win the time slot, or even come close. So it might as well cut its losses and stick with the fan base that, while small, will stay there no matter what. On the other hand, as Sepinwall writes in the main article, Community cannot catch a break. January 1st, 2011. As the calendar turns, it doesn't look like Greendale is particularly close to shutting down forever. But Community fans aren't the type to sit on their laurels and just watch the show. Look at PaleyFest, or Comic-Con, or more recently, the show's subforum on the social media site Reddit, which accumulated 1,000 subscribers in under a month. Like overprotective, or maybe adequately protective parents, these fans don't want to see their baby go. They're telling everyone they know about the show to boost ratings. They're organizing online letter writing campaigns to badger the network into a renewal. They're tweeting. A lot. And as Community earns spots on Best of TV year-end lists, including a number 1, the sitcom's position at the end of 2010 looks quite similar to its position at the end of 2009. Only now it's a year later, and for many fans, there's a genuine worry that NBC's cautious optimism is shifting to frustrated pessimism about the future of the program. But for these devotees, over the last year, the overriding sentiment they've developed for the show is love. For the producers, for the actors, and for the characters they've spent so much time with. Will Community last 2 seasons? 3 seasons? 10 seasons? They don't know, but one thing's for sure. They're going to enjoy the ride. Thank you for listening to The Story of Community. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're binging along, listen to the next episode after watching Season 2 of the show. To watch the podcast after show, the epilogue, featuring myself and other Community podcasters, along with the articles, interviews, and other sources referenced in this episode and a complete transcript, visit bit.ly/thestoryofcommunity. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at StoryofCommPod, on Instagram at The Story of Community, and on the Community Podcast Discord at bit.ly/podcastcentral. The Story of Community is written, produced, and edited by me, Alex Wong. Music is composed by Alex Wong and played on MuseScore using the Chateau Grand sound font by John Neubauer. I'd like to give a shout out to the Community Podcast Network for their assistance throughout this project. You can find links to all of the other fantastic Community podcasts on the same website, bit.ly/thestoryofcommunity. Also special thanks to Deborah Wong, Evan Angler, and Chris Revel at Let's Chat Media for their feedback and advice. On the research side, thank you to the Wayback Machine at archive.org and the Reddit search tool at camas.github.io/reddit-search for saving me countless hours of fruitless digging. This podcast is produced using Adobe Audition and distributed through Spreaker. See you next episode.